The rain was relentless, drumming against the windshield as I navigated the desolate highway. It was one of those eerie nights when the darkness seemed to swallow everything whole. I saw him standing there, a solitary figure shrouded in the downpour, his thumb outstretched, seeking refuge from the storm. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. He climbed in, water cascading off his drenched clothes. His face was obscured by the shadows, but his eyes gleamed with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. We exchanged few words. His voice was low, almost haunting. As we drove, unease settled in the air like a thick fog. His presence seemed to fill the car, suffocating me with its weight. I stole glances at him, but his features remained inscrutable, lost in the darkness. Suddenly he spoke, his words slicing through the silence like a knife. He knew things no stranger should know, details about my life, my fears, my deepest secrets. My heart hammered against my ribs as a chill gripped me. I tried to rationalize, to convince myself it was just coincidence. But each revelation cut deeper, leaving me exposed, vulnerable. Panic clawed at the edges of my mind as I struggled to maintain control. When we reached the next town, I pulled over, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Without a word, he disappeared into the night, swallowed by the darkness from whence he came. I sat there shaken to my core, grappling with the unsettling encounter. Who was he? How did he know? Questions swirled in my mind, unanswered, unresolved. Days turned into weeks, but the memory lingered like a stain, refusing to fade. And in the dead of night, when the world was cloaked in shadow, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was out there, somewhere, watching, waiting, his presence lurking in the darkness, a chilling reminder of the fragility of our existence.
The crackling of the campfire provided a flickering comfort against the encroaching darkness of the forest. We were deep in the wilderness, miles away from civilization, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the night breeze. The air was thick with anticipation as we huddled closer, exchanging ghost stories beneath the blanket of stars. As the flames danced, casting eerie shadows on the trees, a chill crept up my spine. Something felt off. I brushed it off as my imagination, trying to shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at the edges of my mind. But then we heard it. A sound, faint at first, like the distant wail of the wind. My heart quickened as the noise grew louder, closer, echoing through the silent forest like a mournful cry. I glanced at my friends, their faces pale in the firelight, mirroring my own fear. We knew we weren't alone. Shadows danced at the edge of the clearing, twisting and contorting in the darkness. Branches creaked overhead as if bowing to some unseen force. And then, from the depths of the forest emerged a figure, a silhouette cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming like twin orbs of fire. A primal terror gripped me as the figure drew nearer, its footsteps heavy against the forest floor. Panic surged through my veins, urging me to flee, to escape the clutches of whatever lurked in the night. But we were frozen, rooted to the spot by fear's icy grip. And as the figure loomed closer, its features twisted into a grotesque parody of humanity. I realized with a sinking dread that we were at its mercy, helpless against the horrors of the night. In that moment, as the darkness swallowed us whole, I knew that our camping trip had taken a sinister turn, one from which we might never return.
I remember it like it was yesterday. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the open road ahead of me as I made my way home from a long day at work. I had always enjoyed the peaceful drive through the countryside, but that evening was different. As I rounded a bend in the road, I saw him standing there, thumb outstretched, a hitchhiker looking for a ride. Despite the unease prickling at the back of my neck, I couldn't bring myself to leave him stranded on the side of the road. So I pulled over and motioned for him to hop in. He climbed into the passenger seat, a smile playing on his lips as he thanked me for stopping. His eyes, however, held a darkness that sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to brush off the feeling, chalking it up to my own paranoia. As we drove, I attempted to make polite conversation, but he remained strangely silent, staring out the window with a distant look in his eyes. The unease began to creep back in, growing stronger with each passing mile. Suddenly he turned to me, his smile disappearing to reveal a sinister grin. "You shouldn't have picked me up," he whispered, his voice chilling me to the core. Panic surged through me as I realized the danger I was in. Without warning, he lunged at me, his hands wrapping around my throat in a vice-like grip. I fought back, struggling to break free from his grasp as he laughed, his eyes glinting with madness. In a moment of desperation, I managed to shove him away and bolted from the car, running as fast as my legs could carry me. I never looked back, fear driving me forward until I reached the safety of the nearest gas station. As I caught my breath, I realized just how close I had come to a tragic end. The encounter with the hitchhiker would forever haunt me, a terrifying reminder of the darkness that lurks in the most unexpected places. From that day on, I vowed never to pick up another stranger on the side of the road, no matter how desperate they may seem.
As I drove into the small town of Whispering Pines, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with a tinge of nervousness. Moving to a new place always brought a sense of adventure, but this town seemed to be shrouded in an eerie silence that sent shivers down my spine. I pulled up to my new home, a quaint cottage at the end of a quiet street lined with tall trees that seemed to whisper secrets to each other as the wind rustled through their leaves. Unpacking my belongings, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes followed my every move. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft tapping at my window. Heart pounding, I cautiously peeked out, only to see a shadowy figure standing in the darkness. Frozen with fear, I whispered to myself that it must be my imagination playing tricks on me. But the next morning, as I ventured into town to pick up some groceries, the locals cast wary glances my way, whispering amongst themselves in hushed tones. I could feel their eyes boring into me, their stares sending a chill down my spine. As I made my way back home, a sudden gust of wind sent a newspaper flying past me, the headline catching my eye: "Mystery surrounds disappearance of young women in Whispering Pines." My heart skipped a beat as I realized the gravity of the situation. That night, as I locked my doors and windows, I heard a soft voice whispering my name, beckoning me to come outside. Trembling with fear, I mustered the courage to look out, only to see a figure cloaked in darkness standing at the edge of the woods, its eyes gleaming with malice. In that moment, I knew that Whispering Pines held secrets darker than I could have ever imagined, and that my disturbing encounter was only the beginning of a nightmare that threatened to consume me whole. I realized then that I had stepped into a town where shadows lurked at every corner, waiting to claim their next victim. And as fear gripped my heart, I knew that I had to unravel the mysteries of Whispering Pines before it was too late.